Dawn of War 4 returns to Kronus after 200 years. The scars from the Dark Crusade run deep across this world, marking every battlefield where 7 factions tore each other apart and every consequence that followed. The planet today bears little resemblance to the world that witnessed the Dark Crusade. What started as a territorial dispute over an abandoned Imperial colony has transformed into something far more dangerous. The planet now qualifies as an active tomb world, with Necron forces awakening in irregular patterns across continents that still show scars from the original war. Captain Thule led the Blood Ravens to total victory during the Dark Crusade, crushing 6 rival factions through methods that drew Inquisition scrutiny. His forces opened fire on Imperial Guard units defending their positions, prioritizing chapter objectives over cooperation with other Imperial forces. This victory established the Blood Ravens' claim to Cronis, but it also created questions that were never fully answered. Thule's assault on the Necron tomb complexes appeared successful. His forces used powerful explosives to collapse catacombs and seal tomb entrances, with Imperial reports claiming the destruction of all active Necron forces. The operation prevented immediate awakening, but 2 centuries proved insufficient to suppress tomb complexes that were far more extensive than Imperial forces realized. Backup systems, redundant power sources, and self-repair protocols slowly restored damaged infrastructure, while the galaxy moved on to other wars. 60 million years ago, Cronis was a thriving Necron world, before the Great Sleep sealed its masters beneath the surface. The planet became a vast underground network of resurrection chambers, manufacturing facilities, and data vaults containing technological secrets from their ancient civilization. Kronus was settled before Imperial records began, with human colonies established without realizing the ancient horror that slumbered beneath their settlements. The world was rediscovered during the Great Crusade and absorbed into the Imperium. After centuries of Imperial neglect and weak governance, the Tau seized the planet during their second sphere expansion. For nearly 200 years, Cronis existed as a Tau-controlled colony, with rebuilt infrastructure and a population living under Tau rule. Tensions remained between the Tau administration and the human inhabitants loyal to the Imperium, and the planet became the flashpoint for the multi-faction conflict later known as the Dark Crusade. Everything changed when the tomb complexes began their awakening cycle. The stirring of ancient machinery sent psychic tremors across the warp, drawing the attention of Craft World Altways farseers. The Elder arrived intending to prevent a full Necron awakening, but their intervention triggered the massive 7-way war that devastated the planet. The conflict drew Blood Ravens seeking ancient Imperial relics, Imperial Guard attempting to reclaim the world, Tau defending their colony, Orcs drawn by the promise of massive fights, Chaos Wordbearers pursuing dark agendas, and the awakening Necrons themselves. The war left Cronis in ruins. Cities were reduced to rubble, entire regions became permanent war zones, and the planet's surface was scarred by orbital bombardments, titanic weapons, and exotic alien technology. The industrial ruins and abandoned battlefields became perfect territory for Orc populations to slowly recover and expand. Orc spores from the original forces gradually developed into new tribes over 2 centuries, creating feral clans that viewed Cronis as their ancestral battleground and built settlements from the wreckage of the Dark Crusade. The Blood Ravens established monitoring stations and relic vaults after claiming the planet, but never maintained a permanent garrison. Cronis became a repository for ancient artifacts recovered during the campaign, guarded by automated systems and occasional patrol visits. The planet's status remained ambiguous, officially Imperial, but too damaged and remote for full recolonization. The Tau Empire wrote off their losses and focused expansion efforts elsewhere, while the Eldar maintained distant observation, waiting to see if their worst fears about the Necron awakening would prove justified. The awakening process that resumed after Thule's intervention proceeded gradually and unevenly. Different tomb sections came online at different rates, creating a patchwork of active and dormant areas across the planet. Some regions experienced full Necron emergence, while others remained sealed, creating a tomb world where the ancient masters controlled only portions of their former domain. This irregular pattern means the Necrons emerging today aren't at full strength. They're ancient machines, trying to rebuild while fighting off multiple threats, operating with damaged programming and compromised resurrection protocols. The accelerating awakening has now drawn warring factions back to Cronis. The Blood Ravens return because their monitoring systems detected massive energy signatures from supposedly destroyed tomb complexes. The artifacts secured during the Dark Crusade may be under threat, or new caches may have been revealed by the awakening process. The Space Marines arriving on Cronis come from different companies than those that fought under Captain Thule, many bearing the Primaris upgrades that have transformed the chapter over the past 2 centuries. They face the consequences of their predecessors' victory, while potentially discovering uncomfortable truths about how those claims were originally secured. The Adeptus Mechanicus arise on Cronis because an awakening tomb world represents the largest possible cache of archeotech outside of an STC discovery. For tech priests, this becomes the archaeological expedition of several lifetimes, wrapped in layers of lethal alien technology. Their campaign focuses on accessing Necron data vaults, manufacturing protocols, and the exotic physics that keeps tomb worlds operational across millions of years. They'll fight anyone who interferes with their acquisition operation, treating the entire conflict as a research mission with military complications. The Mechanicus expedition transforms the conflict from traditional conquest into a high-stakes salvage operation. Unlike typical Necron encounters where ancient warriors emerge at full strength, the irregular awakening creates situations where Imperial forces might capture intact technology. The tech priests aren't interested in territorial control or Imperial glory. They want to strip mine the planet for knowledge and turn the awakening tomb world into their private research facility. The York clans defending Cronis have 2 centuries of occupation behind them. They've built settlements in Dark Crusade ruins, created infrastructure from scavenged materials, and developed into a genuine planetary presence. They are defending territory they consider rightfully theirs. The irregular awakening has provided decades of excellent fighting opportunities, making Cronis an ideal orc world from their perspective. They view both the ancient dead and new arrivals as fresh opponents in an ongoing war they've been fighting since birth. The Necrons awakening across Cronis today face a planet transformed beyond recognition. Their tomb complexes have been damaged, their surface installations destroyed, and their world infested by lesser races. The resurrection process itself has been compromised, with some tomb sections producing warriors with degraded programming or damaged bodies. Their goal remains the same: reclaim their world, but they must do so while operating at reduced capacity against multiple threats. Gabriel Angelos remains absent from the Cronis campaign. The chapter master has other battles to fight across the galaxy, leaving younger commanders to handle what appears to be a routine reclamation operation. The Space Marines arriving must prove themselves against the consequences their predecessors created, without the legendary figure who turned the Blood Ravens from a diminished chapter into one of the Emperor's most feared instruments of war. Cronis represents something different now. The planet's transformation from contested colony to active toon world provides the foundation for exploring how consequences echo across centuries in the grim darkness of the far future.